Hello, everyone. This is Dr. John Gamichia. I'm recording from my office here in Orlando, Florida. I'm so happy to be with you. Look, I've got 300 slides of almost all photos. So we have a lot to do. This is not going to be a webinar where you're going to sit back and there's going to be a lot of empty space. We are going to go fast and I hope it's going to be awesome for you. So I'm going to give you all my information at the end of the lecture. If it's too fast and you want to talk to me, I'll give you all my contact information. So let's go. We can't do stuff like this without a company like Bisco. They support the stuff that I do, and they are an awesome partner. They don't tell me what to say. They don't tell me what products to use, but they support me. And you're going to see at the end, you're going to see through this lecture how, some of this stuff doesn't make a ton of money for the companies, but it's really good for the patient. So I appreciate Bisco. This lecture is a little bit out of the box. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff today that might challenge you, and I want to disrupt you. I want you to do more dentistry that kind of gets you uncomfortable. So let's just leave it at that, and I will always be available for questions. Before I start, I want to say this lecture is not about me. Okay, this lecture is, I might say this is awesome, or I love the way this turned out. I fail every single day. I fail. And just because I'm showing you my best work doesn't mean that I don't fail and I know everything. I don't know everything. I got a comment once that said this lecture should be called "Look How Great I Am." And I guess I didn't do a very good job because it shouldn't be about me. It really should be about the patient. And I really want it to be about the patient and you guys learning. So please, if you don't hear that, then I did fail, but I want you to hear that. Here's a quick intro to kind of the way I feel about dentistry. This is a scene out of The Bear. It's a show that this guy gets a sandwich shop and he really wants to make the employees more passionate about food. And the guy to the left here is Cousin. He's the most toxic personality, but he's been sent to this Michelin rated restaurant just to get the feel of what it looks like to be passionate about food. Let's listen.
That wasn't clean.
I've been doing this for 9 hours. I think I know what's clean.
I'm telling you that's not clean. That was not clean either. Please do them properly.
Yo, they're goddamn forks.
Outside. Do you think this is below you or something?
Man, I think I'm 45 years old polishing forks.
No one is asking you to be here. I don't think anybody remembers your name.
Nice try. You think I don't know how hard it is hiring people since COVID?
We don't have that problem.
You really drink this Kool-Aid, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because I love this, Richie. I love this so much, dude. Did you know that when this restaurant opened 12 years ago, it won the best restaurant in the world the same year? It's retained 3 stars because we have a waiting list that's long. 5,000 people waiting at any given moment long. Do you see their faces when they walk in here? How stoked they are to see us and how stoked we have to be to serve them? It takes 200 people to keep this place in orbit, and at any given moment, one of those people that is waiting in line gets to eat here. They get to spend their time and their money here. I'm sorry, bro, but we need to have some forks without streaks in them. Every day here is the freaking Super Bowl. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid.
Every day in our offices should be the Super Bowl. I love my job. I graduated in 95. I'm 56 years old. I'm 30 years out, and I cannot wait to go to work tomorrow. And I just want, and I feel that's a blessing, right? Because I know people are burned out. I just love my job. I love the way I do dentistry. I'm passionate about it. Every day in my office is the Super Bowl. That's how passionate I want my staff to be. I want you to be. This is my practice. Just a single standing building in a little suburb as my operatory, a little suburb outside of Orlando. I'm about an hour from Disney. I'm an hour from Winter Park or Ellsworth, where Tiger Woods used to live, all the golfers and the stars here. I live in a blue collar town, and you'll see some people and some stories about being in a blue collar town. I love single tooth dentistry unapologetically. We go to lectures, and they talk about is full mouth reconstructions and all on fours and everything like that. But the majority of our stuff is single tooth dentistry. That's what I want you to get better at today. What are we going to do today? Let's just look at some restorations. Okay. I started doing fillings. Really, in dental school, they didn't even teach composite fillings for me, but I do them every day. I mean, I did 10 today. And this is a filling that you're going to see a lot in my practice, or kind of the impetus of this lecture is a person comes in with an occlusal amalgam and the lingual cusp breaks off. What do? You tell them they need a buildup in a crown. In a blue collar town like I'm in, I'll say you need a buildup in crown and it's $2,100. And they're going to say how much to pull it. So I have kind of created something that is beautiful and that it lasts. It's less expensive and it's very profitable for me and my practice. Here's a DOF. Just a lot of really good fillings. Let me go up. I wanted you to see that last one. And you don't have to have perfect anatomy to have a really good filling. This is what I wanted to show you. This is it's gone. Forget it. Anyway, DOL, that's a lot of tooth to do an onlay on. And it's really just, to do an inlay, for me, every single day, sit the patient down, fix that with a composite every single time. This is tooth number 17. John, you're crazy. Why would you do? Well, this person is about to go into orthodontics and move that tooth into the second molar spot, but that's an OF filling. And that's kind of a newer technique that I got to get really good anatomy. This to me, these three fillings here, is kind of what I do every day. Great contacts, pretty good cut, really good color, good anatomy. Let's talk about this some more. I mean, two teeth that really need restorations, take them out. And really, I'm very efficient at this. My assistants are very efficient at this. I do both of these fillings in about 20 minutes. And because this is what we do all the time. Listen, I really love art. And this is just kind of an exercise. Rembrandt used to put himself in all of his masterpieces. So this is the Return of the Prodigal Son. Rembrandt is the guy in the hat, and he kind of sticks himself in his masterpieces. He is in every one of his stories. This is the Descension from the Cross. That is Rembrandt on the back right. And Velasquez used to kind of just put a stamp on all his masterpieces. You see the handkerchief on the bottom right. That is what I want you guys to do. This is what I do every day, is I put my signature and my face in all my stories. That's a little joke, right? But every one of my fillings, every teeth that leaves my office has anatomy in it and looks really pretty. That's how my reputation is around in my town, and I want it to stay that way. All right, just easy, simple class 1, class 2s, broken cusp. I'm going to restore it just with composite. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the class 1 and the class 2, just like what I talked about. But then we're going to get to a little bit bigger. Then we're going to get to a little bit deeper. Then we're going to get to big and deep. And then towards the end, yeah, we'll do some things with composite that are fairly ridiculous. So let's talk about the class 1 and the class 2. Let's just do one case together. This to me, just the person wanted the amalgam out. I take it out. I clean it up. I bevel all my margins, and I do a restoration in about less than 14 minutes. And I can do all that anatomy in less than about 45 seconds. I do restorations like this all day long, and I expect them to last decades. So this is kind of very good contact, very good anatomy, very good fit. Everyone is happy, very profitable because I can do them very efficiently. Let's just do one more. Really deep, right? That red stuff is caries detector. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Really good matrix, really good ring, a little bit of Vitribond down at the pulpal floor, the deep part. And then we're just going to fill this thing up. I do a lot of anatomy before I cure, and then I cure, and then I do some anatomy with burrs. And I'll tell you all those things in a bit. I always selective etch, get a really good matrix system. I mean, this, just a DO just becomes such a slam dunk in my office. And it's just really pretty, and it's a really good service for the patient. All right. An old filling that my father did had some decay on the mesial. I kind of blasted it all out, cleaned it up, really good matrix system in place, fill it up, clean it off. Most of my fillings are less than 20 minutes. So here's a fairly deep restoration, a fairly deep cavitation. And we'll talk about deep and what I do with deep, but I'm sorry about the blurriness of this picture, but I did this, if you do all your work or take pictures with cell phones, you can kind of get the timestamp, so you know exactly how long it took you to do it. So even with taking photos, taking videos, this filling took me 14 minutes to do. Pretty good result. So so let's just go through the products. And then when we know the products, we trust the products, we can do a class 1 and class 2, then we can move to bigger and better things. I etch everything on the enamel. I've used Bisco etch almost forever in my whole practice. It's very viscous. It stays where you want it to stay. You need a good adhesive system. All Bond Universal, a beautiful material, a 7th generation, all in one product. So I selective etch, use my All Bond, and then I go. Okay. As long as your adhesive has MDP in it, it's going to be pretty good. Very, very good. You need a contact ring, a good system. The Trio-Dent's been around forever. I've been using Trio-Dent forever. I love the Garrison rings. If I can use a Garrison ring, I'm using a Garrison ring. So I really find that the Trio-Dent is easy, but the Garrison I love even better. You need a matrix system. But if you start doing a lot of resins, class 1 and class 2 resins, and you get really good at them, you're going to find these regular matrices that you use, they get stuck. The contact is so good, you can't get the matrix out of there. So what I've gone to is these Teflon coated matrices. Not necessarily Garrison. If you get the ones with the Teflon, it's so much easier, so much better. Use the Teflon matrices, okay? And Garrison has a whole system called Strategy. Caries detector, I use caries detector on almost every single prep that I do. Okay? Caries detector, I want to know where the decay is. I don't necessarily take it all out. I want to know where the decay is. Caries detector helps me. Curing light, one of the most important things that we do. Okay? Christensen says, if you're not using a good curing light, you will not maximize the products. And that's it doesn't really need to be said. Okay? There was a study that said in the ADA journal, 37% of all composites were not cured adequately. Do you know how terrible that is? You need a light that has a minimum of 1,000 megawatts per centimeter squared. Okay? That is, if you have something that has 1,000, it's not a good light. If you're not curing properly, these are all the things that are happening. You are getting sensitivity. You are getting secondary decay. You are getting micro leakage. You're getting inflammatory responses. I'm telling you, the light is so important. Okay? I can't spend a lot of time on it, but please Check your lights. I use the Valo Grand and I use the Valo X. Okay. And they have a 3-second cure. The Valo X has a 3,000 megawatts per centimeter square, 2,400 to 3,000. This is a very powerful light. Everything that I do is cured properly. Test your light. Okay. This is something that I use once a month. I test all my lights. It is an app and it keeps all your lights in order and tells you if this is the blue light, the radiometer from Blue Light. It's an app. It's all digitally done and it tells you how your light has been doing over the years. If you are losing power from your light, this app is going to tell you. Excellent. If you're positioning the light wrong, so let's say you have a great light and you hold the light at a 40, or your assistant is holding the light and she's curing for you and she's holding at a 45-degree angle. You are losing 50%, somewhere around 50% of the power by not holding the light in the right position. Okay. I did a little experiment myself with an old LED light, 1200. If I put it right up against the radiometer and I just kind of bent it a little bit and I lost about 30% of power. So I did the same thing with the Valo. It's about 2,000 megawatts per centimeter squared. Kind of tipped it a little bit. I get down to 1,000. Like I said, almost 50%. So make sure the light is in the right position as well. All right, enough about lights. I have an air only syringe. Okay. Looks like this to the right. So you know that the first squirt out of an air water syringe, water comes out. I do not want water in my prep. Okay. This is a $60 product. I put it in all my operatories. Prep burrs. I use 6 burrs on every single restoration I do. I use a 330 burr. Most of the time now, it's more diamond than carbide. I use a chamfer prep burr and a 4 or 6 round burr. That's what I do every prep. When I do my anatomy, I use a 2-striper football burr, and then I use a veneer finishing burr. Okay, you can get them anywhere. And it doesn't have to be the exact ones I use. Those veneer finishing burrs, when you want to put beautiful anatomy in teeth, oh, so good. But they're like a mega fine diamond as well. And when I polish, I don't like to polish my restorations. Okay, I've got perfect anatomy in it. Then I take something and I blow all my anatomy away. I take a brownie point. I do all my margins. I try not to get into my anatomy too much polishing, but the brownie point is such a beautiful polisher that it only takes, it takes flashes away. I use a Soflex disc system to get flashes away. So composite, you have to have a good composite. I mean, so there's tons of them out there, but I want you to have a nano hybrid. Okay. I can't get into what a nano hybrid is clusters of smaller silica. So you get the strength of big clusters and the finishing of small clusters. Okay. So just know that the nano hybrid is basically the best. You're going to get everything you want out of a composite: handling, wear, durability, polishability. Okay. And very stable with a nano hybrid. Bisco has a great product in their composite called Quantum. I use a warmer. When you do a lot of restorations like I do, having your resin a little bit more flowable, a little bit more easy to use, Aden has a great warmer. So anatomy and finishing, I used to use an Explorer, but everybody's got an Explorer. You can use an Explorer, the tip of an Explorer, before you're done curing. Okay. Now I've got this little beauty of an instrument from Garrison called Fissura. I love this instrument. It's got a fine tip on the end. And actually the tip on the left is the one I use the most. I was going to show you how I do anatomy, but I'm not sure I have too much time. But if you guys, I'm gonna let it sit for just a second. I think this video is less than a minute. But I can do really good anatomy in less than a minute with that fissura burr. I'm going to get to all your questions at the end. We're going to start flying here in a second with all the before and afters. So it's just how you hold the instrument. I know this isn't exactly what happens in the mouth because I can move this thing around, but if you know the anatomy of a tooth, you can see it's starting to come into play. It's starting to come. I'm going to move it forward just a little bit. You can start seeing that you figure out how the the material is used, how it's molded. And then if you know the anatomy, so in total, this video was 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I can do my anatomy pretty doggone fast, and it turned out pretty good. Right? Okay. I just want to show you what it looks like in the model if you're going to do two back to back. If you're doing two back to back, you get your matrices in well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to restore one of them, reburnish, and restore the second one. We'll talk a little bit about that later when things are a little bit too big. These are perfect sizes for this. And you can see the matrix. The matrix looks so good here, and I'm fine with that. The problem's going to be when we have something that looks like this. This is a disaster. We've all done it. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Toffemeyer and I'm going to do one of them with a Toffemeyer. And it's the contact or the wall is not going to be awesome. But then when I do the second one with my sectional matrices, it's going to be much better. So we can't do it this way if the bands look like this. And when I talk about a Toffemeyer, sometimes you have to use a Toffemeyer. Okay. For things like this, you cannot get a band on these things. So I use a Toffemeyer that looks like this. It is concave, mesial, distal, and then occlusally gingival. It has the concave, it's a concave. These are called Dixieland. Okay. So I used to get them from Waterpik and they were called the Getz Matrix. They no longer make them. So I now just order from Safeco. This is a Dixieland Matrix. Oh, there it is. But don't call Waterpik because they don't make them anymore. So what we have is something that needs a Toffemeyer matrix because the restoration is just too large for a sectional matrix. You put the Toffemeyer on, but here's the problem. The contact sucks. Even if you burnish it, the contact sucks. So I want to get better contact. And here's an instrument from Garrison, or this is called a Contact Pro, or Garrison makes something similar called a Preform. You put it on there, you put your resin in the box, and you're going to pull the matrix system towards the tooth, towards the adjacent tooth, and then you're going to cure from the top. You cure right through the glass instrument while you're pulling the matrix towards the contact, okay? This is an awesome instrument. So you're going to go to something like that and using a Toffemeyer, putting good anatomy in. This is a slam dunk in my office. It turned out so good. All right, so let's get bigger. So, again, this person breaks a tooth. He knows that he's got some problems. He comes to me and he's like, I know this is bad, but I can't afford what I know you're about to tell me. I said, listen, let's just do a composite restoration. And what I used to say is, I don't know if it's going to last. Okay. I'm going to put this composite in. I don't know if it's going to last, but I'll do my best. Well, what happens is he comes in on recall and it looks great. And he comes on recall again. And then I have 200 of these fillings and they all look great after 10 years. So what happens now? I do fillings on these teeth every single time. I don't do crowns. I don't do onlays. I do composite restorations. And they're going to look something like that in less than 50 minutes. It really turns out gorgeous. So if you get your contact right, you got the right armamentarium, you got the right products, this stuff is going to be awesome. 85-year-old man breaks a tooth. That filling is older than me. Okay, there's not a whole lot of decay, just the tooth gets weak when you get old. And so I put a Toffemire around that and filled it up. I don't even think that I probably numbed him up. Same exact story. I'm telling you, this happens to me in my practice all the time. I can guarantee you I did not numb them up. There's a study that says if a patient is over 70 years old, they feel 8% of dentistry. So I know there's no decay. I know that person's over 70. I tell them, if you feel it, let me know. I take the filling out. I clean up the dentin. I put a Toffem around it, and I fill it up. And it looks like that gorgeous little thing in about 25 minutes. Now I'm efficient at it because I've been doing it for 30 years, okay? I've been doing this uncomfortable restorations, and I've gotten really good at it. This person was hurting when she bit down. And I was like, well, let's replace your amalgams and find out and see if that sometimes makes it better. Well, as soon as I took the amalgam out of the first molar, the lingual cusp broke right off. So instead of sitting her up and telling her she needs to build up in a crown, I just went ahead and restored them. Okay. 2 occlusals and 1 Toffemire occlusal lingual restoration. I did all 3 of those in 24 minutes. So when you can do them efficiently, pretty profitable if you ask me. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
And he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left,
So now
the
we're
wheel
gonna
goes
get
to the
to
right. When you turn it to the
really
right, the wheel
hard
goes to the
things
left.
that
I thought this would...
I won't have time for the video, but what the video is saying is he tried to ride a bike where he turned the steering wheel to the right and the bike went to the left. And he thought this is going to be easy. So he tried it every day, 10 minutes every day to try to ride this bike that turned the wrong way. It took him 9 months to ride this bike. Okay? What I'm trying to tell you guys is this is hard stuff. And it's going to be hard, but the philosophy behind it is real. And I think if you have the passion for this, and there's a space between the broken tooth and the crown, it is there, and I want you to know about it. Okay, so now what can I use this knowledge? I start with pedo. I do all my pediatric teeth, with composite. I don't know how to do a stainless steel crown. I do all large restorations with composite. Okay, so I'm going to be something like this to something like this every single time. So I get DOLs. I got a DO there, 2 fillings in that picture. I got a sealant. I got an occlusal. I got a DO. These teeth look amazing. Do they last? Well, I tell my kids, if I do a filling on you and you bring it back to me when it exfoliates, I'll give you $10. So guess what? The kids don't forget. They bring these teeth back to me. So I get to look at teeth that have exfoliated on primary teeth. This lasts. I have hundreds of those photos. All right, so let's talk about deep restorations. This makes people very uncomfortable. Okay? Let's hear Dr. Bader talk about incomplete caries removal. Maybe. He's supposed to come.
I want to talk about incomplete caries removal. I want to bring you a sort of state of the science update on incomplete caries removal. And I want to start by showing this radiograph, and please ignore the calculus hanging off of every tooth. And let's talk about tooth number 30. And if you saw this radiograph associated with a patient sitting in your chair, I ask you, what might you start anticipating you might have to do? A pulp cap, a pulpotomy, perhaps endodontic treatment, other referral, or doing it yourself? But if the patient has a deep lesion such as that one 1/2 the dentin thickness or greater, but no signs of irreversible pulpitis, and that means it's positive to a cold test, it's negative to percussion, there's no spontaneous pain reported by the patient, and no periapical lesion evident in any radiograph that you have, then the science, the evidence suggests that you ought to consider incomplete caries removal. That is, deliberately leave caries in the preparation if it's close to the pulp and place a restoration over it.
Okay. This is 2014. He's saying leave decay, and that is the science. So what they do is they study. It's the study of studies. So they put qualitative analysis, systematic reviews of science, and they put everything together. And what they've come up with is that if you have a vital tooth, you can leave decay, and you will be very successful when you restore this tooth. Okay? So the review of the studies is there is a 1% failure rate if you leave decay and do a filling over the top of it. Now, you have to have good margins all the way around. So you're going to leave the deep part, but you're going to take all the decay away on the enamel and probably 2 millimeters of dentin. Okay? I'll show you some photos. Most of the failures happened on a two-step. So some people used to put IRM, put a dical down, put dical down, then IRM, and then go back in 6 months later and see if there's a dentin bridge. He's saying don't do that because that's where most of the failures happen. So we're going to do it on a one step. It doesn't matter what liner you use. You can use calcium hydroxide. You can use Vitribond or glass ionomer. You can use no liner. As long as it's sealed, it will heal. And age is not a factor. You can do these on adults and older fellas and older patients. Here's a 23-year-old that came to my office. He said he went across the street to the local clinic, and they told him he needed a root canal, post and core, and a crown. This is a 23-year-old medical student. Yes, it's deep. I just restored it. You can see there tooth number 5, right? Pretty deep. It's a vital tooth. I do these restorations every single time. What's the worst that could happen? The pulp dies. They need a root canal. You have a discussion with them. And this is what it looks like 20 minutes later. Okay? And the worst part about it is he had 2 of the same lesions on the other side, and they wanted to do 2 more root canals, 2 more post and cores, and 2 crowns. So he would have had $9,000 worth of work at this other clinic. Do we know what the Hall technique is? In 1950, a dentist out of Scotland was overwhelmed with decay, and she couldn't do all the work. So on the first visit, she's like, you have a hole in your tooth. I can't get to you. And for the next 6 months, this will be a problem when I can get to you. So what they did was they put IRM in the hole. They had no preparation at all. No preparation. No anesthetic. They put IRM in the hole. They put a stainless steel crown over it, and they let the patient go. 99% success. The decay did not grow. So what they're saying is if you seal decay, it will heal or it will not grow. So we take that back to our restorations. You can leave decay on the pulpal floor. It will be fine. That was a lot to say about what we're going to do here. This is a very deep carious lesion. This guy's got lots of carious lesions. I want to put this fire out, and I want to move on to all the other things that this person has. I do a very deep restoration. I will either put Vitribond, or now I will probably put calcium silicate down at the very pulpal deep part, and then I will do a restoration every single time. Okay? Not perfect, but very, very effective. I will do restorations that look like this every single time. If I establish the fact that the tooth is vital, just like Dr. Bader was saying, okay, response to a cold test. You start asking the questions. Does it hurt you spontaneously? No. Does it hurt when you get food in there? Yes, but it doesn't hurt long. How long does it hurt? We establish that it's vital, and I do the restorations every single time. Okay? I do large restorations like this every single day. Wow, that's huge down that lower second premolar. How about the one where the second molar's butted up against, or the third molar's butted up against the second molar? You got to have that third molar taken out, and you've got a huge defect or carious lesion. I love helping people do this because usually the patient has really good oral hygiene. Look at this patient. How old is this kid? They haven't even gotten their second molars in yet. He's got a giant hole in his tooth. I don't want to do a root canal on a 9-year-old, but I'm super happy doing a large filling, putting putting calcium silicate down and just doing the restoration. Almost every time it is successful. Huge decay on the first molar, huge decay on the premolar down below. And the kid doesn't even have his second molars in yet. He doesn't even have his premolar in yet. So we're able to help this kid with minimal amount of dentistry. And this is back to what we were talking about before. Good Toffemeyer, good matrix system. It's pretty much a slam dunk. Yeah, I restored that one. I don't give it very long. I mean, there are times where I'm just, telling this person they need to have this tooth out, but I'm going to fix it today. I mean, those are very large carious lesions that I have no problems restoring. Not the best, not the most perfect restorations, but quite good. Huge decay. And quite frankly, I'm having a conversation with them that they're probably going to need a root canal. Oh, so there's a lot of science now that's coming out that's so good for teeth and dentistry that calcium silicate cements are changing dentistry. Theracal, PT, MTA, you've heard of these things. How do they affect our practice? Well, let me tell you, they are talking about doing full pulpotomies when you get into a tooth and you do a pulp exposure and you can't stop it from bleeding. Okay. The best thing to do is not send them to the endodontist. You want to do a full pulpotomy. And they talk about in the science it's really prevalent now. This is what everybody's talking about in the research world is we could save pulps, take the pulp out of the tooth without doing a root canal, take the clinical crown, the clinical pulp out, do a full pulpotomy, get it to stop bleeding with bleach, and then put Theracal PT over your pulp. That pulp will live almost 90% of the time, even more. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're doing a full pulpotomy, taking all the pulp out, getting it to stop bleeding, put Theracal on it, and then do the restoration. It is amazing. We are saving pulps. How about this one? This kid's 10 years old. Okay, molar incisor hypocalcifications, right? This is not a good tooth. And it's not his fault. The tooth is basically just breaking down. He's 10. Okay, I take all the decay around it. I have a really good zone of good non-carious enamel and dentin, and the pulp is right there. I'm going to leave. I don't love leaving that much decay, but there was a lot there. I put Theracal down and I did a restoration right over the top of it. Called the dad the next day. Absolutely no post-operative problems at all. And he had 2 more of these to do. This is a 21-year-old in real trouble. Okay. This was a lot of decay on this girl, and she was having symptoms. So put Theracal over the top of it. It's light cured, and then I did the restorations right over that. Okay. So then large becomes regular at my office. Okay. So an 80-year-old man comes in, he had a DO resin and the buccal cusp broke off. Okay. There's not a whole lot of decay. The only decay is like that little spot that you can see right there. I took the decay out. I did some electrosurge, right? put a Toffenmeyer around that thing, and I restored it. He's got, as you can see, he's got so many problems that I want to put this fire out right now and get him back and start systematically taking care of his problems. He's in his 80s. I don't want to do a ton of dentistry right now. I want to wow him with what I'm going to do today. And then of course he came back and then he did the rest of them. That's what that looks like. That's what that looks like. Super nice in 21 minutes. He's super happy. This is a retired missionary. He was told that he needed 2 buildup and crowns and another dentist. And I don't doubt that that would be a good something good to do. Okay. It's 7 o'clock at night here. I can't even think of words. But anyway, he doesn't have $4,000. He doesn't have $4,500 to do both of these teeth. I said, sit down. Let's try to restore these things and see what happens. Super clean. Okay. I don't love it. It's hard. It's big. It's hard. I'd have a discussion with him that it might break. In this case, I would not restore this way. I would restore the Toffenmeyer tooth first and then do the matrix systems after. And this is what they look like in less than an hour. Okay. And then I saw this guy on recall. And this is a terrible picture, but it's a 5-year post-op. You would have never thought that that tooth would have lasted 5 years. So this is and I've tried to call him back. I think he probably passed away. So he, it lasted. It was a great service for him. Huge decay, super deep, good, same thing, good margins all the way around the pulp. I'm going to put Theracal down and I'm going to restore this tooth. Do some electrosurge. But what you'll see is this is the way I do it now. The Toffenmeyer tooth first, then a sectional matrix restoration on the second one. Absolutely gorgeous restoration. And I totally expect these things to last decades. 1 hour and 1 minute to do both of those. Post endo. I know you guys love getting that letter back from the endodontist saying this tooth needs a crown. Okay? I do not do crowns post endo. And there's plenty of research that backs me up. I know you think I'm crazy, but if the tooth did not need a crown before the endo, I'm not doing a crown afterwards. Okay? Here's an article in JADA saying no evidence difference between the survival and failure rates of endodontically treated teeth restored with composite or metal. Same thing with this one. They are both very successful. So I got this 23-year-old girl that came in hurting. I did the root canal and I said, listen, you need a crown now. And she's like, I've just given you everything I had to do this root canal. And I was like, well, there's certainly a lot of tooth left. I just did the restoration. Never saw her again. So now I am doing fillings every single time without worrying about it. Here's a post-endo restoration here. Here's the 9-year post-op. It looks exactly the same. All post-endo restorations. There's a post-endo restoration. I did the root canal and I restored the tooth all in the same day. And I said, there's a chance you might break that lingual cusp off, but here it is 7 years later. And it's still a chance that he might break that lingual cusp. But then we'll do then I might patch it or do a restoration. Here's number 15. It was really the only filling I ever did on this guy. He started hurting. Then I did the access filling. And here it is 18 years later. And so a guy comes in like this, he's a mess. But I can kind of use all these techniques. I'm going to do a DO on number 14 or number 3. I'm going to do a root canal and a build up or big restoration on 4. I'm going to do a DO on 5. I mean, I have to do a root canal because of the periapical pathology, but this is what it looks like. These are what all 3 of the restorations look like. And he's gone. Do you trust your adhesive? Absolutely, I trust my adhesive. Okay. Here is a woman that is a a blue collar worker. She's an hourly employee. And I know that because she was employed by one of my other patients. And he told her to come here. And she's like, I can't afford a crown. I make 20 bucks an hour. Yep, that's scary to do, but it is her only option. She cannot afford a crown. It would take her years to just save up. So I do this in less than 25 minutes. Okay. And I just saw her again. This is 3.5 years post-op. It looks pretty good. So you guys know who this is? This is MacGyver. MacGyver had a show like, just give me something and I'll get us out of, just give me a paper clip and duct tape and I'll get us out of this situation. So it becomes, you know, this is a 16-year-old kid. I do not want to do endo on this kid. I do not want to do a crown on this kid. So I take everything that I got in the tool in my drawers and I help this kid out. Okay. So this is a massive hole. Okay. So you see the pole porns, you see thin walls that are probably going to break. So I want to introduce you to another product that I use is Ribond. Okay, you know that you might know this as a lower anterior retainer, but now I use this product inside weak teeth, and I use it for tooth rebar. So I put Vitribond. In this case, I put Vitribond right down on the pulp horns on the pulpal floor. I put Ribond around this tooth. Probably in hindsight, I probably would have put a second piece of Ribond and holding these walls together. It's a whole other lecture. If you want to talk about Ribond with me, please call me. But I use Ribond in all my large restorations. How about cracked teeth? I don't love doing crowns on. I didn't do that other crown, and my philosophy is try to avoid crowns, even on cracked teeth. Yes, this tooth has a nice crack on the lingual, and it probably goes all the way to the distal. But I put a piece of Ribond right on the crack and I restore the tooth. It looks gorgeous. I never heard from this patient again. How about those cracks on the second molars? You see them on you see them on a 35-year-old, a 40-year-old. They have no decay anywhere in their mouth. And I hate doing crowns to save this person from a cracked tooth. So I get it early. I see the crack, I put a piece of Ribond on the crack, and I just restore it. And then you could watch this thing and see if it proliferates. And most of the time, it just looks like a restoration. No more proliferation of the crack. So you have tools, right? So a woman comes in with a 5-unit bridge. She has decay under her bridge. What are her options? She had money for the 5-unit bridge when she was 50, but now she's 72. Her husband's passed away. She's on a fixed income, and I tell her she needs a new 5-unit bridge. And she starts to cry. So what I do is I'm like, well, I got tools.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
I have skills that I've developed over a long period of time. I'm looking at this thing and saying, what the heck do I do for this woman? So I said, I just took a gamble. And what I did was I prepped a box in the crown. Okay. So the decay was really all distal. So I was able to do just a class 2 restoration inside of a crown. It turned out amazing. This was really the first one I've ever done. I was making it up as I went along. But I kept it just to the distal, so I was able to use a sectional matrix. Obviously, you can't use a Toffemeyer because you can't get it down. So if you can use a sectional matrix, you can do a filling through a crown. Excuse me. And this is what it looks like. I've used all my adhesive tools. I bonded to the dentin, I bonded to the metal, I bonded to the porcelain. I put a an opaque layer in there so the metal doesn't shine through. It really turned out awesome. So now I know I've got this skill. I can do this on, so this 84-year-old man with dementia comes in and he's got decay under this gold crown on the distal. So I took the decay out, I did the quick filling, and in 30 minutes I was done, and I don't have to put this 84-year-old man with dementia through a ton of dental work. So this is something that I use when I have to. It's another tool it's part of my repertoire. All right, we don't have time to talk about money because I'm down to about 10 minutes. All I want to tell you about money is that the ADA did a study and they talked about how the production of dentists, okay? I looked at the 75th percentile of the dentists, what they made, and in my practice, I was doing 30% more than the 75th percentile. And in that year was 2008. Oh, here down at the bottom line, I did 58 crowns that year. I did 1 crown a week, and I was still producing 30% more than the 75th percentile. I'm not saying I don't do crowns because I do a ton of crowns now. But what I'm saying is I have this kind of dentistry in my repertoire, okay? And I think it does make very much sense in my production. Now, do they last? You guys are going to say these things, you're going to do them, but they're going to break. Okay. So there's a study, a very good study that followed this dentist around for 22 years. Okay. And they looked at thousands and thousands of restorations with him. And they found that they were 1.5 to 2.5% failure rate. But his failures, 54% of his failures just needed repairs. So if you, just like this guy, if you do your restorations well with the best products and you have a good technique, they will last. Here's my stuff. 5-year post-op on that one. Remember that one that I didn't numb up? It looks beautiful. 6-year post-op on a DOL. Here's a gorgeous occlusal filling. That's 7 years old. It looks like you just put it in. Remember this third molar one? Well, here they moved it as best they could into the second molar spot. This is 8 years old. Remember this one? This is crazy. You do these in 20 minutes and you're like, how long is this thing going to last? This is a 9.5-year post-op. It doesn't make sense that it's still there, right? Even to me. But now I know that I'm going to get some good years out of these things. This DO restoration looks like the day I put it in. It's 12 years old. This is a buildup that I did. The woman broke her tooth and she promised to come back. She never came back for the crown. This is 12 years later on a material that has no business being in the occlusal plane. 12 years old, 13, 14. This is number 32, MODF, 14 years old. These things last. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. You have to believe me. So now that we know that they last, now that you know that we have what products to use, let's do some bigger stuff. Oh, wait, even bigger than we talked about? Okay, so there's a kid. He's 10 years old. He jumped in a pool and broke his front tooth in half. Okay, so if you look in the left picture, you can see the fracture. The piece came off. The piece literally just came off. I did the root canal. I might do it differently now. This is a long, long time ago. And that's the day I did it. I just bonded the piece right back on. And then a couple years later, I was like, whatever happened to Joey? Joey's 10 years old. And then years later, whatever happened to Joey? So I finally got a hold of Joey and I said, can you come back in? So Joey came back in. Here's the post-op. He's got tartar around the restoration. And let me show you something. That's what Joey looked like when I finally got a hold of him. What is he, 30? So this is like 20 years later. That restoration is still on. Another woman whose daughter wanted her to just to have a good quality of life. She's probably in early stages of dementia, and you have skills. I said, I am going to try to restore these teeth the best I can, even number 7. Okay. I'll keep number 7 out of occlusion, but I'm just going to restore these in one appointment. Freehand, nothing too crazy. I just restored them. And this woman was able to live out the rest of her life with nice teeth. Here's a 20-year-old that another dentist told her to go ahead and take her front 2 teeth out. Whoa, that is really devastating news for a 20-year-old girl. Anyway, I did them all in one appointment. She has terrible home care. Even to this day, she has terrible home care. But in 10 days, this is what she looks like. Oh, gosh, John, you are nuts. This is Uncle Phil. This was this was the uncle of one of my staff members. Now, Uncle Phil gags when he brushes his teeth. Now, you're saying this guy doesn't brush his teeth, but when he does brush his teeth, he gags. So there's no way he's wearing a denture. So my thought process was, let me go ahead and restore these teeth the best I can, give him a open palate partial, just so he can get used to wearing something, and then eventually just make him a denture. The 2 teeth on the left side of the screen had to come out because it was class 3 mobility. But here are the preps. Those 2 teeth are gone. I'm gonna this is absurd. You're saying, John, this is absurd. What else was I supposed to do? I just wanted to try to help him for a couple months. I don't know if this is going to last. Okay. So this is what I did. I restored all the teeth by hand. So, you see the midlines off. I ended up making him flexible partials with nothing on the palate. Okay. Fixed everything on the bottom. I ended up fixing everything. And then I said to my front desk, whatever happened to Uncle Phil? And she's like, I don't know. I was like, do you see Uncle Phil? And she said, yeah. And I was like, does Uncle, like she says, I see him at birthday parties and Christmas or whatever. And I'm like, does Uncle Phil have teeth? And she's like, I think he does. I said, get Uncle Phil back here so we can take photos. Here's Uncle Phil. Okay. Uncle Phil does not wear his partial. So we have a couple things. What would you the timeline here? He doesn't wear his partial. So he is chewing on these teeth. It's the only thing he's chewing on. This is 4.5 years later. There is no way, if you have good adhesives, you have a good light, you can do some crazy stuff. And this is proof. And I didn't believe it. I don't believe it. But this is what happened. I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you. So then you have this woman. She's 37. She's got 7 kids. Okay. She needs a denture. She needs an immediate denture. What are you going to do for an immediate denture? Leave 3 teeth for her and then take the rest out? You're going to let her go? So I don't know. So what I did was I fixed the 3 broken ones. I took the ones out in the back and I made her an immediate denture. So this is what it looks like the day she leaves. And they have to last it, they last the 3 months until she's ready to do final impressions for her dentures. This was a great little thing that it took me 45 minutes to do all these, and it's just a great service for them. So what else can you do? Or what can't you do? Well, not much. This person walks in, broke her tooth, a little bit older, maybe in her late 70s. I'm telling you, teeth get weak. But she brought the piece. And I was like, why are you bringing me a piece? I don't need a piece. I looked, it fit perfectly on this tooth. So I selectively etched the piece. I selectively etched the tooth. I took the amalgam out and I put this tooth right back on. It turned out amazing. It's dehydrated, right? So it's got that real chalky look. About 3 months later, she came back in. I took another photo of that thing. Look how gorgeous that thing is. Is it going to break? Maybe. My hygienist has a cleaning lady, and she says to my hygienist, I know you work for a dentist. I just went to another dentist and they told me that I needed a buildup in a crown. Can your dentist help me? And my hygienist said, yeah, of course he can help you. So she came to me. I was going to help her do this MODL filling. I took the amalgam out and the buccal cusp, both the buccal cusps broke off. That's what it looked like when I was done taking the filling out.
Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
So I know this woman can't afford a crown and I'm stuck. Right? So I go back to the skills that I have. I put a Toffemire around this thing. I use my preform and my Contact Pro. I get good contacts both sides. I'm holding the matrix down with my finger while I'm restoring them. This is not easy to do. But the restoration turned out really, really good. A couple years later, I said to my hygienist, whatever happened to that lady? Do you still have her as a cleaning lady? She said, no. I went into the computer. I found out her phone number. I called her up and I said, hey, it's some years later. Can you tell me if that filling is still in your mouth? And she said, you're not going to believe it. It just broke. And I was like, can you send me a picture of how it broke? Okay, so needless to say, this isn't the picture she took. This is the picture that I bribed her to come back to my office so I can take a picture of it. I took a picture of it. She did not even know that the first molar was the molar that I restored. The second molar was the one that broke. 8.5 years later, a full tooth. This woman says, how much to pull this tooth? I said, it costs $450 to pull a tooth at my office, but it costs $550 to restore this tooth. Would you like me to restore it? She went with the restoration. This is what it looked like in 23 minutes. Very profitable. $560 restoration in 23 minutes. This guy was told by another dentist to take all his teeth out. I restored that. Post-endo restoration is basically a composite crown. I put a rest on it, and we even put a partial on that tooth. This is a 19-year-old kid that doesn't value his teeth. So I'm not going to put him through a root canal, a post and core, or a root canal and a core and a crown for his mother to pay for it, and he doesn't value his teeth. I want him to value his teeth before I do tons of dentistry on him. I cut away all the tissue. I stop the bleeding. I put Theracal down on the bottom, and I restore this tooth. 33 minutes later, this is what it looks like. He had 4 of these to do. He had 4 wicked restorations that I did them all, and he really turned his life around, and he still comes for recall, and he's doing an excellent job. This is a 35-year-old mother of 2 that broke her molars, and they were just sharp to her. And I said, well, let's do some fillings. And she said, I can only afford one at a time. So we did the first one, cleaned it up, looks really good, puts a Toffemire around it, put anatomy in it. It looks really good. 3 months later, so she's saving up for 3 months to get another filling. We did the second filling, looks so good. I just want, I'm just telling you the possibilities, okay? Another very old or elderly person, I don't necessarily want to do a ton of dentistry on them, but I actually believe in the restorations that I'm showing you. So I would not even tell this person they need a crown. I'm going to basically do a composite onlay. So this is what I do. I love doing it. It's great for the patient because they're not sitting there for a very long time. It's super easy. And the times, it was 48 minutes, right? And I was like, 48 minutes seems like a lot. I looked in the chart. I forgot on the same day, I did the same thing on an upper premolar. So I did 2 of them in 48 minutes. And I charge, when I do 4 surface resin, I charge $560. So it was really almost $1,200 for 2 resins in less than 48 minutes. Very profitable. Again, 81-year-old man. I know he's 81 because this is my father. My father's a dentist. Virgin tooth, broke in half. I didn't really want to do a ton of work on my father. So I just did a resin. And actually, it turned out really, really good. Okay, this is unfinished and then finished. A4 on the bottom, A2 on the top. Looks so good. All right, very, very last. I did pretty good. That's 300 slides in 55 minutes. Okay, let's do the last of them and we'll answer some questions. This is a female patient that just got married to one of my longtime patients. She's 30 years old. They got married. They bought a 7-Eleven. And I said, you need an implant. And she says, I can't afford an implant. So I was like, okay, well, you need to have that tooth out and we need to kind of hold the space. So I brought her back to do a retainer. I was going to make her take the tooth out and make a retainer. I had some time. I guess the next patient canceled, so I had some time. And I said to her, let me go ahead and do a filling on this tooth. You know, what are the chances that it lasts?
What do you think the chances are of a guy like you and a girl like me ending up together?
Not good.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of a million.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
All right, so you're telling me there's a chance. What are the chances of if I put a filling on this, it'll last? And you would say 0%. And that's basically what I told her. I'm going to put a filling on this thing. It's crazy. I spent some extra time and I put some stain on it and everything. And I said, I cannot guarantee you that this will last till you get to your car. Okay? So this is what it looked like on recall in 1 year. And so now we're playing with house money. The FERCA does not look good, but the endo still looks good. I'm like, I don't know how much longer this is going to last. It looks like the tooth is breaking at the FERCA. So at the second year, the FERCA actually looks better. So talk about playing with house money. You're telling me that a restoration like that, no post, just straight adhesive, maybe I went down into the canals. This is 3 years. Okay? She gets divorced from her husband. She moves away. So now what I do is I text her every year on the date, the anniversary of the filling. And I say, is the filling still with us? And she'll text me back, yes. That's the only communication I have with her. When I got to a certain date, I said, will you please come back here so I can take a photo of it? Okay, that's what it looked like in 3 years. Unbelievable. Look at that FERCA. At 7 years, she came back to me so I can take some photos. And then the 8th year, I bribed her back to come back. This November will be 9 years. Is that an incredible restoration? Okay, woo. I am exhausted. I know you must be exhausted. We have done a lot. In conclusion, get yourself a great bonding agent, okay? The matrix system is super important. The light is the most important. Get yourself a good curing light. Okay, the resin, get a resin that's a nano hybrid. Then you could start doing primary teeth, deep fillings, indirect pulp caps. Okay, 3, 4, 5 cusp restorations. You can do get crazy and do decay under the bridge. You can use your Ribond. If you trust your adhesive, it will last. It will be so much fun. It will be profitable. I guarantee it. And you can build your practice from that. I have built my practice because people think that I am fair and they tell their friends about me. Okay? Thank you to Bisco for supporting this type of dentistry. It's humbling to me that they would, and I appreciate our relationship. This is my phone number. I want you to follow me on Instagram. I have 138 followers. So I'm not huge yet. But I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. Let's talk. Please take a picture of the screen and call me or text me if you have questions. This is a lot. Okay, so I'm supposed to, let me find the questions. What matrix system do I use? I told you I use the Garrison that has the Teflon tape. So Garrison is Garrison Dental, okay? So Capel asks if it's 14 minutes including anesthesia. Well, if it's on the top, the anesthesia doesn't take very long. On the bottom, because I'm doing single tooth, I will do local anesthetic on the premolars in, but I use something called a Paraject from Stabident, and that gets people numb one tooth really fast, okay? And so 14 minutes is probably start to finish with the restoration, but I would say the anesthetic only takes about 4 minutes. So someone's asking about shades that I use. About 95% of what I do in the molars is A3. You're going to find that number one, if it's a little bit dark on a younger person. Now, if it's someone in the teens, I'm using A2. If it's somebody over 25 or 30, A3 works perfectly. Okay. And then someone over 70 or 80, you're going to have to go to A3 and A4.
Order filled.
Let me just answer a couple more questions and then we'll be done. So someone's using the green caries detector. It is the same thing. Yes, it takes some time. Dr. W was asking that it does kind of force you to go deeper. So using caries detector there is a you have to learn how to use it, okay? And use it, and then use your spoon and use your slow speed brown burrs. And so that's I've learned how to use it. There's not really enough time to talk about it today. There's a question about SDF. I do not put SDF under restorations. Young Innovations has just come out with something called, for the life of me, I can't remember it, but it is a silver fluoride that has a very low dose of silver in it that does not stain. That's Young Innovations, okay? But no, I do not use SDF under restorations. So one more question from Jesse. In these huge restorations, does the patient report sensitivity after? With the adhesive systems that I use, I almost never get sensitivity. So if you're using some of the top, products, you're using them properly. If you have a good light, I almost get no sensitivity. Ribond is spelled Ribbond. Ribond. Okay. How do you use Ribond? Please email me or text me and I'll walk you through it. Class. Okay. What burr do I use to cut through that class 2? Well, it's a PFM. You know, you got to use a diamond through the porcelain, and then you use a carbide through the metal. Okay. I really appreciate you guys. You are studs being here on a Friday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon. You're studs. Okay. That's all there is to it. Thank you for listening. I had so much fun. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you're more passionate about dentistry. This is very hard to do, so don't be frustrated. I'd love to talk to you about it. So please call me. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Trung. Good night, everyone.